President Biden's going to really try to hone his pitch to black voters again, because polling suggests that his support there has really slipped. And perhaps one of his top allies is Congressman Jim Clyburn. Clyburn gave an interview over the weekend where he acknowledged he is, quote, very concerned about President Biden's standing with black voters.
This most recent Sunday, you said that you're, quote, very concerned about black voters showing up for the president. What changed, sir?
Nothing changed. My concern is much more with black voters getting the right information, getting all of the information so that they will be informed voters. That's my concern.
Is it fair to tie in any way what happened at the Emanuel AME Church to Donald Trump? Donald Trump had barely launched his campaign when that attack happened.
Donald Trump's utterances way back before Charlottesville ties him to what happened at Mother Emanuel.
Bullshit.
The fact of the matter is that young man went into that church's basement and murdered them.
So that horrific event occurred in 2015 during the Biden-Obama administration.
My concern is black voters getting the right information, getting all of the information so that they will be informed voters. Donald Trump's utterances before Charlottesville ties him to what happened at Mother Emanuel.
Clyburn basically accusing Trump of aiding and abetting murder. 2015.
In 2015 during the Biden-Obama administration.
An idiot named Dylann Roof goes in and shoots the place up. 10 are dead, all African Americans. Clyburn is saying that Trump encouraged that.
Trump had barely launched his campaign when that attack happened.
Clyburn is saying that Trump encouraged that. Now that, number one, is a lie. And number two, is so grossly irresponsible, it's just staggering.
Donald Trump looked at those people in Charlottesville and said that there were good people on both sides. And those people were uttering things like, Jews will not replace us.
Now, Clyburn doesn't care. If he cared, he couldn't utter the sentence that Donald Trump said there were good people on both sides in the context of the church shooting.
During the Biden-Obama administration.
Donald Trump looked at those people in Charlottesville and said that there were good people on both sides.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. They should be condemned totally. Condemned totally.
Donald Trump looked at those people in Charlottesville and said that there were good people on both sides.
Donald Trump did say there were good people on both sides when he was talking about removing Confederate statues.
You know it if you were honest reporters, which in many cases you're not. But many of those people were there to protest the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee.
He was talking about what spurred on the Charlottesville controversy was the attempt to remove Confederate statues.
I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups, but not all of those people were neo-Nazis.
And Trump said there are good people on both sides opposing and supporting keeping the statue. It had nothing to do with the neo-Nazis.
You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue, Robert E. Lee.
Now, Clyburn's probably not smart enough to know that.
People in Charlottesville and said that there were good people on both sides.
In those remarks, the president did condemn neo-Nazis and white supremacists.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
So he's not saying that the neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people.
Donald Trump has said things in support of those activities that ties him closely to what happened at Mother Emanuel.
In 2015 during the Biden-Obama administration.
Kayleigh McEnany, I never booked her. They just tell lies the way that, you know, most people breathe. And there was no value in that.
Donald Trump looked at those people in Charlottesville and say that there were good people on both sides.
There's a big difference between somebody like Kayleigh McEnany, who just like, this is what she does. She tells lies all the time. She can't acknowledge reality. So I'm just not going to put somebody like that on air. How worried are you about black voters showing up for President Biden in November?
My concern is much more with black voters getting the right information.
Getting all of the information so that they will be informed voters.
I have no problem with the Biden administration and what it has done.
We watch 40-year high inflation grip America.
And what it has done.
Inflation hitting another 40-year high this week.
Our plan is working. It's working.
President Biden says, blame Putin, even though prices have been surging for the whole year.
Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin.
This blame belongs squarely with the Democrats and squarely with Joe Biden.
The Biden administration and what it has done.
A New York Post op-ed, inflation is rising again and Bidenomics is still to blame.
I think so much for Bidenomics. That's really another name for losernomics.
Bidenomics. And guess what? It's working. Bidenomics is just another way of saying the American dream.
Who are the 18% that think he's doing a bang-up job with Bidenomics?
I have no problem with the Biden administration and what it has done.
The Biden administration has determined that the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan was actually Trump's fault.
They know that they have blood on their hands. I mean, Americans died behind their reckless withdrawal from Afghanistan. So, yeah, they're going to look to blame President Trump because that's all they have.
The Biden administration and what it has done. My problem is that we have not been able to break through that MAGA wall in order to get to people exactly what this president has done. He promised to relieve student loan debt.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not.
Biden is delivering on his campaign promise.
My campaign for president, I made a commitment would provide student debt relief. And I'm honoring that commitment today.
The president can't do it. So that's not even a discussion.
The president doesn't have the power. It's Congress's power. So why is he doing it?
President Biden and his Secretary of Education exceeded the authority that the law passed by Congress gave them.
He promised to relieve student loan debt, and he has done that.
The president can only postpone, delay, but not forgive.
The United States Supreme Court, with 6-3 vote, stopped him from doing so. But he sought another way.
What the administration had tried to do was waive or modify the terms of the loan by forgiving the debt altogether.
I'm still hearing from people as recent as yesterday. He did not keep his promise on student loan debt relief, and he has.
The Supreme Court says here that that is beyond the power of the president. Only Congress can waive that much debt.
80% of what he said he would do, he has done and is continuing to do it, and people don't focus on that.
I promise you, if I'm elected president, you're going to see the single most important thing that changes in America is we're going to cure cancer.
Curing cancer? That is a very, very bold campaign promise. Are you sure you want to hang your campaign on that promise?
If he believes that we can do it, I believe him.
The Biden administration and what it has done.
The Biden family taking millions of dollars from foreign adversaries.
Joe Biden is trying to imitate Vladimir Putin, whose only major opponent, Navalny, is in jail. And frankly, you can understand our foreign policy better. This is an Iranian-Chinese administration in the White House that actually looks after Iran and China more than it looks after American interests. And the scale of corruption is far beyond Hunter.
What specifically can the president do? What does he need to do to ease your concerns?
I think the speech up there after Valley Forge was a great speech. The speech at Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston was even greater. There's never a time, however, to misuse religion. This president seems to think the religion is some kind of prop to further his political interests. 4 years ago, presidential candidate Joe Biden, he made a lot of promises and commitments. The religion is some kind of prop to further his political interests.
The nerve of Joe Biden to appear at a black church after he has reneged on the promises that he made to the black community when he ran for president in 2020. He has some gall. We can't be mistaken. Jim Clyburn is sitting there right next to Joe Biden, almost as a sidekick, so to speak. And Jim Clyburn bears the responsibility of some of this as well.
I present to you the man, Joe Biden.
This president seems to think the religion is some kind of prop.
Thank you. Thank you.
To further his political interests.
We need to start asking these leaders, some of the black leaders, what are they doing for the community today? And Jim Clyburn is not doing much for the community today. His district is one of the poorest districts in the country. Meanwhile, Jim is living just fine. So I think people like him have led us down this path. They've had us continue on the same path that we've been doing for the past couple decades, which is why we haven't received any type of progress when it comes to politics in this country.
In terms of 2020, very quickly, you are seen as something of a kingmaker or perhaps a queenmaker in South Carolina when it comes to the Democratic primary there. Any thoughts about whether or not you may support one candidate or another?
So I think it would be unfair for me to get involved. So I'm going to stay out of it.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
But I want the public to know that I'm voting for Joe Biden. South Carolinas should be voting for Joe Biden. So I think it would be unfair for me to get involved. So I'm going to stay out of it. Joe knows us.
That's right. That's right.
That's important.
And you ain't black.